Hi Team Poco, it's Chef Kassie again. We're back again to make something yummy for you guys to eat while you're on your study breaks. Today we're going to make something that I like to call sneaky brownies. For some of you, maybe it's going to be a little too much, and if it is, I also attached another recipe that doesn't have the sneaky ingredient in it. So our sneaky ingredient today is actually going to be spinach. Spinach and brownies, I know, crazy, but remember, we do have spinach in our chocolate and banana smoothie at school, so I think you guys can handle it. So what you can do is you take your frozen spinach, or you can use fresh spinach, or if you don't have a means of pureeing your spinach, you can actually use baby food. You're going to need a cup of pureed spinach. So you take a container like this, defrost it, and then you can put it into something like this. This is a smoothie maker, or you can use a blender or a food processor. And then you go ahead and start your engine. And what we're looking for is a bit just extremely pureed and creamy spinach, okay? So with this recipe, you're going to need 2 bowls. You're going to need your dry bowl, your wet bowl. A spatula would be helpful, or you could use a wooden spoon or just a regular spoon, and a whisk, or you could use a fork as well. So we have it's 1 cup of pureed spinach. So if you're going to use if you're going to use fresh spinach, you need to put a little bit of water in with it as you puree it. Just a couple of tablespoons, 1 to 2 tablespoons to get it moving. And then our next wet ingredient is actually going to be a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And then we have a 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar. Then we have melted chocolate chips. I know that they look like they might not be melted, but they are, because look, we're going to dig right in and scoop them into our batter. Alrighty. And then we have melted butter, 2 tablespoons. So that was a 1/2 cup of melted chocolate chips. So we have our 4 tablespoons of butter. It's a 1/2 stick of butter. And that is all of our wet ingredients. We have our little thimble here of our vanilla extract. This is 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So once we have this ready to go, we're going to wipe off our spatula real quick, and then we're just going to whisk that around. So before you start this, you want to make sure to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, okay? Alright, so you just want to whisk it with your whisk or with your fork or your spoon until it is smooth. And we'll set that aside for 1 minute while we get our dry ingredients going. So for our dry ingredients, we have 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We have a 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. And then we have a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So you just want to mix these together. You never want to get a big chunk of baking powder. It's a little bitter. So now what we're going to do is just gradually add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients. We just want to do a little bit at a time to make sure that it fully gets incorporated. So I was a little afraid the first time that I made this because they looked very green, but then once you add your cocoa powder and flour to it, they actually start to look a lot like brownie mix. And I know a lot of you are going to be very excited about this because if you've ever cooked with me, I always ask you, don't eat the cookie batter because it has raw eggs in it. Have we used eggs at all today? No. So if you wanted to, you could taste this batter and see if it tastes good or not to you. Alrighty. Finish mixing this up. So if you don't have an 8x8 baking pan, that's okay. You can use a cake pan, or you could even use muffin tins, whatever's going to work for you. Alrighty. Okay, and see? Look, no sign of green. Okay, get as much brownie batter off as you can, because the more brownie batter you leave on your whisk, the less you get to eat. Okay, so we're ready to go there. And so I have an 8x8 baking pan, or like I said, you could use a cake pan or muffin tins, and we have some spray oil. We're just going to spray down our baking pan. And pour our batter in. You want to make sure to spread it out so that it gets to all of the corners of your baking pan. Now we're ready to go into the oven. Okay, so then you put your brownies in the oven for 30 minutes, and I want you to turn it every 15 minutes, so just turn it halfway. And then all of a sudden, they're done. And then you can enjoy them. And then if you stay tuned for the next video, we're gonna make some brownie sundaes.